This group of countries wants to end the US dollar with a currency backed by gold. The internet says it's happening, but here's the thing, it's not that simple, and it's probably not even real. In this video, I'm going to explain why this won't go the way you think. Every few years, someone announces the end of the US dollar. The latest challenger is BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And now, potentially even a dozen more. They say they'll build a new currency, backed by gold, free from US influence, a financial revolution. But here's the real question. Can this group of countries with wildly different economies, different agendas, and weaknesses really take down the dollar? In this video, we're going to break it down and be honest, because while the idea of BRICS is interesting, it probably won't work. BRICS was initially a term invented by a Goldman Sachs analyst in the early 2000s, a catchy acronym for emerging economies with high growth potential. But over time, it became a real geopolitical bloc, one that claims to offer an alternative to Western-led institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, and the US dollar system. And now they're talking about a shared currency, a gold-backed trade, and a new financial order. But here's the issue. The idea sounds powerful until you look at the details. And let's be fair, BRICS does have leverage. China is the world's second largest economy. India is the world's most populous country. Russia is a major energy exporter. And Brazil and South Africa provide key raw materials. Together, they make up over 40% of the world's population and around 25% of global GDP. And they're frustrated with the US dominance. The dollar is weaponized through sanctions. The IMF and World Bank often come with strings attached, and Western financial systems are volatile and politically charged. So the appeal of a neutral gold-backed BRICS currency does make sense. No need to rely on the dollar, potentially more stable, and could attract other countries looking for alternatives like Iran, Saudi Arabia, or even Argentina. It's not a bad idea on paper. Now, here's the other side, and honestly, it's where reality hits. Let's look at the 5 founding BRICS nations. Kick it off with Brazil, an economy plagued by political instability, weak exports, and corruption scandals. Yes, it's resource rich, but struggles to scale. And Brazil is not a global power. Then we move to Russia. Yes, it exports oil and gas, but its economy is now entirely driven by war spending, state control, and declining trust. Even pre-war, Russia's economy was the size of Texas. Russia is massive in land, but small in terms of real output. Then we move to India. A huge population, a fast-growing tech sector, and rising global profile. But most of its labour force still earns low wages, and infrastructure is inconsistent. And India doesn't agree with China on anything. And then we move to China, the strongest BRICS member, no doubt. But China is not invincible. They've got a gigantic housing crisis, a youth unemployment at record highs, a growing generation that's depressed, disillusioned, and rejecting hustle culture. It's a demographic time bomb with a shrinking workforce. And then we move to South Africa, limited in its economic power, riddled with energy crises, and slow growth. It's not leading the charge, it's holding on. So ask yourself, can 5 countries with different goals, different currencies, and different economic weaknesses really create a stable monetary union? That's not BRICS. That's a currency union with trust issues. The BRICS gold-backed currency sounds bold, but history tells us gold doesn't magically fix everything. Yes, the US dollar used to be backed by gold, but it was abandoned for a reason. Limited flexibility, hard to scale global trade, and central banks need freedom to react in crises. Also, how do you build a shared currency when each BRICS currency has its own inflation rate, it has its own interest rate, and no political union to hold them together? It's like trying to build the euro, but without the EU. Even the euro, with all its treaties and institutions, nearly collapsed during the Greek debt crisis. Now imagine the same tension, but between China and India. But here's the twist. BRICS probably won't dethrone the dollar, but that doesn't mean it's irrelevant, because it reflects frustration from the global south, from emerging markets, from countries tired of being dominated by Western finance. And it shows a growing desire for independence, energy trading in the yuan, new development banks, bypassing SWIFT, and building resilience outside the US sphere. So maybe BRICS won't break the dollar, but it will chip away at its dominance. And that, over time, could shift global finance in subtle but very serious ways. A BRICS currency sounds revolutionary, but revolutions need structure, unity, and economic weight. And while China and India are rising, BRICS as a whole is divided, inconsistent, and underpowered. Yes, the dollar is flawed, but it's trusted and it's stable. And for now, there's no real replacement, because building a new world currency isn't about gold bars or press conferences, it's about trust. And that's something that BRICS still hasn't earned.